Well, we have some time for questions. Who wants to go first? If not, I've got one for Rob, which is that when you when you talk to your clients about reducing the content, cutting out the features, getting rid of all this stuff, killing their babies, do you get resistance? Do they push back? How do you persuade them?
Well, I mean, I guess it's kind of hand in the air to say that we don't develop a lot of applications, basically, and the reason we don't develop a lot of applications is because most of our clients' content doesn't fit into applications, and we can't deliver them in a way that we think is cost effective for our clients. So the argument is normally relatively short. Actually, I don't think that you have a valid sort of content set that can be chopped. Basically. But obviously, if there's a really strong desire, it's just about trying to focus in on what's the one thing that you do so well that must possibly is a differentiator.
Yeah, I think just take it from that point. I think largely our view is very much in line with Rob.
I think our view is very much in line with Rob's in that web apps were and are the way to go if you're first starting out, and certainly where we decided to go about 2 years ago. But you do come under pressure subsequently for specific content sets and specific titles and specific areas where more customization and more dedicated user experience is required. But I don't necessarily see those things as being either or, because a way of doing it, it's the way we're going to do it, is just to open up the APIs to the web app to allow third-party developers to then build on top of that whatever that particular client needs. So, I mean, it's a useful way of characterising it as an either-or choice, but practically I'm not convinced it is. And just in terms of traction, you'll get much more traction for your content initially through going down the web app road. I know we've got about 1 million registered users across all of our publisher clients at the moment, so it's a sizable and very fast-growing sector. But whether it's going to be sufficient for those very dedicated particular sets of content is another question.
I think that's an entirely sensible strategy, to be honest. I mean, I think it's about we deliver something like I can't remember, 350,000 user accounts I think we've got on our system currently. So we're delivering a lot of content. Our APIs are giving about 33 million accesses a month. So we're in the same position really, and it's very much about let's make sure we get that 5%. We'll see how that 5% figure kind of grows over time before we start looking at the specifics of application development. If somebody's got like I said, if somebody's got an absolutely compelling reason or a compelling kind of proposition that will only work best in an application, of course, then we point them in the direction of somebody that can develop it cost effectively. Because I think that as an agency, our focus is on using our kind of technical resources in terms of kind of the bigger platform development, and not hoovering them up in delivering relatively small experiences that possibly aren't going to be cost effective.
One at the back there. All right, don't know.
I was just wondering if you had any information on how much a journal app, a specific journal app, might drive up usage. Partly because, just speaking to a couple of researchers, they said they use journal apps instead of table of contents alerts because they don't want more emails. They don't want to have things going into emails, so they use it in the same way as a task.
In terms of the usage driver, we haven't seen massive usage through the mobile app. The mobile website that has more users than the actual mobile app itself. What the mobile app does do, though, it shows that you're moving in that direction. It might attract authors more towards you because you're looking at the new world and new technologies and things. But if it's purely for usage, I'd probably go the mobile website route to get more of that.
That was what I heard too in the interviews that I was doing recently. I'm interested to hear what you say. I mean, both of Rob and Will, you talked about APIs. You just talked about your 30 million calls, Rob, and Will, you were kind of alluding to the proposition that the smartest person to exploit your data often isn't, or almost certainly won't be employed by you by definition. There are more smart people out there. My question is, how do you monetize that? What's the business model for the RFC or for?
That's a really good question. I think it's interesting what The Guardian are doing with their open platform and their APIs, where they've opened it up for people to develop applications based on their data, and you can get that information free until you've made so many calls, and then when your application is successful enough, you have to pay at that point. And the other question is probably the reason for opening the data. Is it for the discoverability of other content that people then actually go back to your main web presence rather than actually doing so the full text within an application? Actually making money in so much.
It's discoverability. I think it is. Any more?
Hi, I'm wondering if you've seen any correlation between success of applications and the use of social media. Is there any reliance on social media to make an app successful?
In our experience, I think this was alluded to yesterday as well, that the take-up in general of social media in the schooling environment is relatively low. I mean, obviously there's exceptions to that rule anyway. But in terms of what the kind of products we're developing for our clients, then I think that social media is often still pretty low down the agenda, and I don't see any significant kind of gains in terms of usage that's actually delivering yet. I do think that there will be gains. I mean, one thing that we're working on is using federated logins, so using Facebook logins, LinkedIn logins, etc., to allow people to personalise the site by using a federated login as opposed to this idea of a dual login that you have within an institution, and looking to tie that to possibly giving kind of free content sets or ways to actually kind of use that as a kind of marketing tool, if you like. So I think that there's stuff on the horizon, but I think at the moment most people would probably agree that the kind of the effect is probably waiting to be seen.
In our mobile app, we've made it very easy to share content and things on social media channels. We haven't seen a massive amount of usage of that functionality. So I think that's
my experience or observation to date is almost in the other direction. That the example of Hippocrates is building a user base that's doing something useful that people wanted to do anyway, and then looking to build a network on top of that to add additional value seems to be more what's happening at the moment.
Emma Harris, TSO. So it seems that direct revenue generation isn't at the moment, or maybe won't ever be, the purpose of a mobile app. What metrics determine a successful app? Have you worked out which metrics, how you're measuring these apps?
In terms of metrics, there's the basic sort of usage metrics. We've tied our apps into Google Analytics so we can see when people actually are doing things. So it's very interesting what Andy Williams said in the Enterprise app, that rather than just the KPI of usage analytics, it's the fact that people have heard of his applications when he goes to conferences and they've used it and said it's useful, and that sort of anecdotal feedback has been quite beneficial. The part that I think is very similar to standard web analytics, so just doing people use it.
I mean, absolutely, I agree with that. I mean, the way we use a number of metrics, obviously, usage is obviously the core one. Time, depth of visit, so kind of maps to content. Conversion, if we're actually offering any kind of form of direct selling. Increasingly looking at kind of social media activity as well around that. But I think that whether you're looking at an application or a native app or a web app, I think usage in whatever guise is the key metric. Yes, absolutely. Unless you've got in-app purchases or unless you're selling direct. I mean, one of our clients is doing relatively well with pay-per-view at the moment, but in terms of a percentage of their overall revenue, it's obviously still very small. But I think it is. And this, to me, it kind of brings on to a bigger issue. It's like, in my head, sort of the ecosystem of the application ecosystem is largely a B2C ecosystem. It's about selling direct through these channels. So, another thing that I probably could have said here is that unless you have a strategy of selling direct anyway, then that sort of also adds another kind of question mark to the need to develop applications. I mean, most of the content we serve is still served up to institutions, obviously.
Well, I'm sure we could carry on debating this for a long time, but our time is up. We want to stay on track, so just like to thank speakers one more time.